If you lived around Uzebu quarters in Benin City, you would know the Obaseki mansion. And if you knew the Obaseki mansion, you probably had questions. The mansion sat at the end of house number 1, Uzebu Close, a towering structure that looked like it had swallowed smaller houses for breakfast and was still hungry. The gates were black iron, tall enough to make you wonder if they were trying to keep people out or keep something in. The compound was so large that if you stood at the gate, you'd need binoculars to see the main building clearly. Flowers lined the driveway, red hibiscus, yellow marigolds, and purple bougainvillea that bloomed like they were being paid to look beautiful. The fountain in the center of the compound had 3 tiers, and water danced from it like it had choreographed moves. At night, golden lights illuminated the mansion so brightly that even the moon probably felt inadequate. Everything about the Obaseki mansion screamed wealth, old wealth, the kind of wealth that didn't need to announce itself because everybody already knew. But wealth wasn't the only thing the Obaseki family was known for. They were known for their women, powerful women, women who owned filling stations that never ran out of fuel even during scarcity, women who had hotels scattered across Benin City and beyond, hotels with names like Obaseki Grand Suites and Alice Luxury Resort, women who were lawyers that made judges sweat during cross-examinations, women who were doctors that other doctors called when they didn't know what to do, women who were politicians that men feared during elections because when an Obaseki woman campaigned, she won. The Obaseki women were forces of nature, but they all had one strange, dark, mysterious thing in common. None of them liked men. In fact, like was too soft a word. They hated men, not in the way someone hates traffic or burnt rice. No, this was a deep, bone-chilling, unexplainable hatred that made no sense to anyone, including the women themselves. And the pattern was even stranger. Every Obaseki woman would meet a man, a good man, a kind man, a man who treated her like she was the answer to every prayer he'd ever prayed. She would fall in love, genuinely, deeply, foolishly in love. There would be a wedding, a lavish one, the kind where the bride's dress cost more than some people's yearly salary, and the reception had enough jollof rice to feed a small village. Everyone would dance. The DJ would play the latest hits. Guests would spray money like it was raining naira notes. But exactly 1 year later, sometimes even before the first anniversary, the woman would pack her bags, return to the Obaseki mansion and declare, "I'm done. I can't stand him anymore." The husband would cry. He would beg. He would kneel. He would ask what he did wrong. And the answer was always the same. Nothing. You did nothing wrong. I just hate you now. You disgust me. It had been like this for generations. The great-grandmother did it. The grandmother did it. The mother did it. The aunties did it. The cousins did it. The nieces did it. Every single one. The neighbors had turned it into a betting game. Ah, another Obaseki wedding? Okay, oh. I give her 8 months before she comes back. 8 months? You're too generous. I give her 6. Me? I'm not even wasting my time. 12 months maximum. Mark it on your calendar. And like clockwork, the women would return, pregnant most times, with their boxes and their wrappers and their babies, back to the mansion, back to the clan, back to the only place that seemed to accept them. People whispered. Some said it was because the women were too educated. When a woman knows too much book, she can't submit to a man. Others said it was because they were too rich. Money spoils women. They no longer respect their husbands. Some even said it was because the men beat them, but that theory died quickly because the men were always good men, patient men, men who cooked and cleaned and begged and cried and did everything except breathe wrong. Nobody knew the real reason. But if you looked closely, if you paid attention to the way the women moved through the mansion, the way their eyes sometimes glazed over, as if they were carrying something heavy and invisible, you would sense it. Something was wrong, something dark, something that had been wrong for a very, very long time. In that same Obaseki mansion, among the powerful women and the whispered secrets, there lived a young lady named Esosa. Esosa was beautiful in the way that made people pause mid-sentence when she walked by. Her skin was smooth and brown, like freshly polished mahogany. Her eyes were sharp and intelligent, the kind that missed nothing. Her smile could light up a room, but she didn't smile often, not because she was rude, but because she carried a weight that most 20-something-year-olds didn't carry. Esosa was in her final year at the University of Benin, studying law. She was brilliant, top of her class, the kind of student that lecturers used as an example when they wanted to motivate lazy students. Why can't you all be like Esosa? She submits her assignments early and her answers are always correct. But intelligence wasn't what made Esosa different from her peers. What made her different was a fear. Esosa had grown up watching the pattern. She had watched her mother pack her bags and leave her father when Esosa was only 2 years old. She had watched her aunties return to the mansion, one after the other, with babies on their hips and bitterness in their hearts. She had watched her cousins get married in grand ceremonies, only to return months later with the same story. I can't stand him anymore. And the most painful part, Esosa had never known her father. She had seen him only in photographs. A tall, kind-looking man with gentle eyes. Her mother kept one picture of him in a drawer, but she never spoke about him. Whenever Esosa asked, her mother would wave her hand dismissively and say, "That man, forget about him. He's not important." But he was important to Esosa. She wanted to know him. She wanted to feel what it was like to have a father. She wanted to be walked to school by a man who called her my princess. She wanted to have someone fix her broken toys and tell her she was smart and beautiful and capable. But that chance was stolen from her by whatever cause or madness or evil that gripped the women in her family. So Esosa made a decision early in life. I will not be like them. She would not fall into the same trap. She would not pack her bags and run back to the mansion. She would not hate a man for no reason. She would break the cycle. But how? That was the question that haunted her. She studied her family like a scientist, studying a disease. She took notes, mental notes, but notes nonetheless. She observed the patterns. They all got married quickly. Within a few months of meeting their partners, they were walking down the aisle. So Esosa decided, I will date for a long time before marriage. I will not rush. They all seemed to lose interest suddenly. One day they loved their husbands. The next day they didn't. So Esosa decided, I will be intentional. I will ask questions. I will communicate. They all moved into their husbands' houses immediately after marriage. So Esosa decided, I will take my time. I will make sure I'm ready. She read books on relationships. She watched videos on how to make a marriage work. She prayed. She fasted. She did everything she could think of to prepare herself. And most importantly, she refused to date anyone casually. While her friends in school were jumping from one relationship to another, Esosa kept to herself. Boys approached her, plenty of them. Handsome boys, rich boys, smart boys, but she turned them all down. "I'm not interested," she would say politely. "But why? I'm a good guy. I can take care of you." "I'm sure you are, but I'm focused on my studies right now." Her friends teased her. "Esosa, you too like to form. You're not a saint, oh. Just date somebody small now." But Esosa would shake her head. "I'm not forming. I just don't want to make a mistake." Because she had seen what mistakes looked like in her family. And she wasn't ready to become another statistic. Another Obaseki woman who couldn't stay married. She graduated from university with first-class honors. Her mother threw a party. Her grandmother was proud. Her great-grandmother, old Mama Alice, hugged her tightly and whispered, "You are special, my child. Very special." Esosa went to law school. She passed her bar exams. And then, like all Nigerian graduates, she went for her National Youth Service Corps (NYSC) program. That was where everything changed. That was where she met Dayo. Dayo was not what Esosa expected. She had pictured that if she ever fell in love, it would be with someone serious and reserved. Someone who wore glasses and quoted legal cases and spoke in calm, measured tones. Dayo was the opposite. He was loud. He laughed easily. He had the kind of smile that made you want to smile back, even if you were having the worst day of your life. His voice was deep and warm, like honey mixed with thunder. And when he looked at you like you were the only person in the room. They met during the NYSC orientation camp in Edo State. Esosa had been standing in line to collect her bedding materials when someone bumped into her from behind. "Ah, sorry." The voice was hurried and apologetic. Esosa turned around, ready to give whoever it was a sharp look, but the words died in her throat. The man standing behind her was tall, very tall. He had broad shoulders and skin the color of dark chocolate. His eyes were kind, and when he smiled, two dimples appeared on his cheeks like punctuation marks. "I didn't see you there," he said, still smiling. "This line is so long that I've forgotten what I'm even queuing for." Esosa found herself smiling back. Bedding materials. Ah yes, bedding materials. The legendary NYSC mattress that feels like you're sleeping on cardboard. He extended his hand. "I'm Dayo." "Esosa." They shook hands. His grip was firm but gentle, and that was how it started. Over the next 3 weeks of camp, they kept running into each other at the parade ground, at the Mami market, during lectures. It was like the universe kept pushing them together. Dayo was funny. He made jokes about everything. The camp food. If this rice was any harder, we could use it to build houses. The man of war soldiers. That man just told me to fall in. Fall into what? A pit? Even the morning drills. I didn't sign up for the Nigerian army. I signed up for service. There's a difference. Esosa, who rarely laughed, found herself laughing constantly around him. He was also kind. When one of the female corps members fainted during parade, Dayo was the first to rush over and carry her to the clinic. When an elderly woman was selling oranges outside the camp gate, Dayo bought all of them and distributed them to other corps members. "You're too nice," Esosa told him one evening as they sat under a tree, eating roasted corn. "Is there such a thing as being too nice?" Dayo asked, raising an eyebrow. "Yes, people will take advantage of you," he shrugged. "Let them. I'd rather be kind and get taken advantage of than be wicked and sleep well at night." Esosa stared at him. She had never met anyone like him. By the time camp ended, Dayo had asked for her number and her address and her email and her Instagram handle. "You're not running away from me," he said with a grin. "I've decided that you're going to be my friend." "Just your friend?" Esosa asked, surprising herself with her boldness. Dayo's grin widened. "For now." They started talking every day. Phone calls that lasted hours. Text messages that made Esosa smile at her phone like a schoolgirl. Video calls where Dayo would show her what he cooked for dinner. "Look at this jollof rice. Gordon Ramsay is shaking." Esosa tried to keep her distance. She reminded herself of her family's pattern. She reminded herself that she needed to be careful. But Dayo made it hard. He wasn't pushy. He didn't demand anything from her. He just existed in her life like he had always been there. When Esosa's posting letter came and she was posted to a school in a rural area, Dayo drove 3 hours just to check on her. "You didn't have to come all this way," Esosa said, shocked when she saw him standing at her door. "I know," Dayo said simply, "but I wanted to." He helped her set up her room. He bought her groceries. He even fixed her faulty ceiling fan. "Are you always like this?" Esosa asked as she watched him balance on a chair, screwdriver in hand. "Like what?" "This. Thoughtful." Dayo paused and looked down at her. "Only for people I care about." Esosa's heart did a somersault. 6 months into their friendship, Dayo asked her to be his girlfriend. They were sitting by a river near Esosa's posting location. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The air smelled like wet earth and fresh grass. "Esosa," Dayo said quietly, "I know you're careful. I know you don't rush into things, but I need you to know something." Esosa turned to look at him. "What?" "I'm serious about you. I'm not playing games. I'm not here to waste your time. I want to build something real with you." Esosa felt her chest tighten. She wanted to say yes. Every part of her wanted to say yes. But the fear was there, looking, whispering. "What if you become like them? What if you end up hating him?" "I'm scared," she admitted. "Of what?" "Of repeating mistakes." Dayo reached for her hand. "Then don't repeat them. Make new choices. Be intentional. And let me prove to you that I'm worth taking a chance on." Esosa looked into his eyes, and for the first time in her life, she decided to trust. "Okay," she whispered. "Yes." Dayo's face broke into the widest smile she had ever seen. He pulled her into a hug, and Esosa felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Esosa and Dayo dated for 1 full year. Not 6 months. Not 8 months. 1 full year. Esosa was deliberate about it. She wanted to make sure. She wanted to know Dayo inside and out. She asked him questions about everything. His childhood, his family, his dreams, his fears, his finances, his faith. Dayo answered every question patiently. He never got annoyed. He never accused her of being too much or too serious. "I understand why you're careful," he told her one night during one of their long phone calls. "And I respect it. Take all the time you need." Esosa introduced him to her family. That was an experience. When she brought Dayo to the Obaseki mansion for the first time, the women stared at him like he was an alien. Her mother looked him up and down with a cold expression. "So you're the one." "Yes, ma," Dayo said respectfully. "My name is Dayo. It's an honor to meet you." Her mother didn't smile. Her grandmother was slightly warmer. "He's tall." "That's good. Tall men are strong." Her great-grandmother, Mama Alice, was the only one who seemed genuinely pleased. She held Dayo's hand and smiled. "You have kind eyes. That's rare." But even as the older women welcomed him, Esosa could feel the weight of their silent predictions. He won't last. She'll be back. Just wait and see. The neighbors were worse. When Esosa and Dayo's wedding date was announced, the betting resumed. 12 months. I'm calling it now. You're too generous. I give it 10 months. She's already showing signs. What signs? She's an Obaseki woman. That's the only sign you need. But Esosa ignored them. She focused on Dayo. She focused on building something different. The wedding was beautiful. It was held at a grand event center in Benin City. Esosa wore a white gown that made her look like royalty. Dayo wore a black tuxedo that fit him perfectly. The church service was emotional. Esosa cried when she said her vows, and Dayo's voice cracked when he said his. The reception was even better. The DJ played all the right songs. The jollof rice was perfect. The small chops were plenty. Guests danced until their legs sent them retirement letters. Esosa's mother didn't dance much. She sat at the high table with a tight smile, watching everything like she was waiting for something to go wrong. But nothing went wrong. Dayo and Esosa danced together, laughing and spinning and looking at each other like they were the only two people in the world. For a moment, just a moment, Esosa let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, she had broken the curse. The first 4 months of marriage were blissful. Dayo was everything Esosa had hoped for and more. He cooked breakfast every morning. He massaged her feet when she came home tired from work. He listened when she talked about her cases. He made her laugh when she was stressed. They lived in a modest two-bedroom apartment in GRA, Benin City. It wasn't as grand as the Obaseki mansion, but it was theirs, and Esosa loved it. Then, in the 7th month of their marriage, Esosa discovered she was pregnant. She took 3 tests just to be sure. All 3 were positive. When she told Dayo, he lifted her off the ground and spun her around, laughing like a madman. "We're going to be parents," he shouted. Esosa laughed too, dizzy and happy. Everything was perfect. Until it wasn't. Esosa woke up one morning in her 7th month of marriage, 3 months pregnant, and something was wrong. Terribly, horribly wrong. She opened her eyes and turned to look at Dayo, who was still asleep beside her, and she froze. The man lying next to her looked different, not physically different. He still had the same face, the same broad shoulders, the same dark skin. But to Esosa, he looked ugly. No, ugly was too mild a word. He looked disgusting. His face, which she had once thought was handsome, now looked like the face of a gorilla. His nose seemed too wide. His lips seemed too big. His skin seemed too dark. Even his breathing, soft and steady, irritated her. Esosa sat up quickly, her heart pounding. What is happening to me? Dayo stared and opened his eyes. When he saw her sitting up, he smiled sleepily. "Good morning, my love." The sound of his voice made Esosa's skin crawl. "Don't call me that," she snapped. Dayo blinked, confused. "What?" "I said don't call me that." Esosa's voice was sharp and cold. Dayo sat up, fully awake now. "Esosa, what's wrong? Are you okay? Is it the baby?" "The baby is fine. You are the problem." "Me? What did I do?" "You disgust me." The words came out before Esosa could stop them. And once they were out, she couldn't take them back. Dayo stared at her like she had slapped him. "What? You heard me? You disgust me. I can't stand to look at you. I can't stand to hear your voice. I can't stand your smell. Everything about you makes me want to throw up." Dayo's face crumpled. "Esosa, I don't understand. What happened? Did I do something wrong?" "You exist. That's what you did wrong. Esosa got out of bed and walked to the bathroom, slamming the door behind her. She stood in front of the mirror, breathing hard, her hands gripping the sink. What is wrong with me? She loved Dio. She knew she loved him. Just yesterday, she had kissed him good night and told him she was the luckiest woman in the world. But now she hated him, and she didn't know why. The days that followed were a nightmare. Esosa's hatred for Dio grew stronger with each passing day. It was like a living thing inside her, dark and heavy and suffocating. She couldn't explain it. She couldn't control it. Dio tried everything to fix things. He cooked her favorite meals. She complained that the food smelled bad. He bought her flowers. She threw them in the trash. He tried to hold her hand. She yanked it away like his touch burned her. Esosa, please. Dio begged one evening, his eyes red from crying. Tell me what I did. I'll fix it. I'll do anything. You didn't do anything, Esosa said coldly. That's the problem. You're just you. And I can't stand you. Dio looked like she had stabbed him in the chest. He started sleeping in the guest room. Esosa had kicked him out of their bedroom, saying his presence made her nauseous. He stopped talking much. He moved around the house like a ghost, trying not to upset her, but nothing he did made a difference. Esosa's hatred was relentless, and the worst part, she started hearing whispers, not from people, from inside her own head. Go home. You don't belong here. Go back to the mansion. He doesn't love you. You're suffering. Go home. The whispers were constant. They followed her everywhere. At work, in the shower, when she tried to sleep. Go home. Go home. Go home. Esosa tried to fight them. She reminded herself that Dio was a good man. She reminded herself that she loved him. She reminded herself of her vows. But the whispers were louder than her logic. And then the dream started. The first time Esosa had the dream, she thought it was just a nightmare. She found herself standing in a dark forest. The trees were tall and twisted, their branches reaching toward the sky like skeletal hands. The ground was cold and damp beneath her bare feet. She looked down and realized she was wearing a red and white wrapper tied around her waist. She wasn't wearing anything else. And on her head, she was carrying something heavy, a large black bowl filled with water. The bowl was so heavy that Esosa's neck felt like it was about to snap. She tried to lift her hands to steady it, but her hands wouldn't move. She looked around and gasped. She wasn't alone. Her mother was there, her grandmother, her great-grandmother, her aunties, her cousins, all of them. And they were all wearing red and white wrappers. And they were all carrying the same heavy black bowls on their heads. Esosa tried to speak, but no words came out. Her great-grandmother, Mama Alice, was at the front of the line. She was bent over from the weight of her bowl, her body trembling. Behind her was Esosa's grandmother, then her mother, then her aunties, then her cousins, and at the very end of the line was Esosa. They were all walking in a single file, moving slowly through the forest like a funeral procession. Esosa tried to stop, but her legs kept moving on their own. She tried to drop the bowl, but her hands wouldn't cooperate. And then she saw the chains. They were wrapped around their ankles, thick black chains that connected one woman to the next. Esosa looked down and saw that she was chained to her cousin in front of her. They were bound together, all of them. Esosa woke up screaming. The dream came every night after that. Sometimes the details changed. Sometimes the women were standing still, the bowls on their heads growing heavier and heavier until their knees buckled. Sometimes the chains tightened, pulling them closer together until they couldn't breathe. Sometimes Esosa saw her great-grandmother passing her bowl to her grandmother passing it to her mother passing it to her. It was like a relay race, except no one was winning. Esosa tried to tell Dayo about the dreams, but the words wouldn't come. Every time she opened her mouth to explain, the hatred would surge up inside her, and she would snap at him instead. She tried to tell her friends, but they dismissed it. It's just pregnancy hormones. One of them said, "You'll be fine." But Esosa knew it wasn't hormones. This was something else, something dark, something that had been waiting for her all along. 1 month later, Esosa couldn't take it anymore. The whispers were too loud. The hatred was too strong. The dreams were too vivid. She packed her bags. Dayo came home from work and found her standing in the living room with 2 suitcases. "Esosa, what are you doing?" "I'm leaving." "What? Why? Where are you going?" "Home." "I'm going home." "This is your home." Dayo's voice cracked. "We built this home together. You're my wife. You're carrying our child. Please don't do this." Esosa looked at him, and for a brief moment, she saw the man she had fallen in love with. The man who made her laugh. The man who held her when she cried. The man who promised to love her forever. But then the hatred surged back, drowning out everything else. "I can't stay here," she said flatly. "I don't love you anymore." Dayo dropped to his knees. "Please, I'm begging you, don't leave. Tell me what to do. I'll change. I'll fix it. Just don't go." Esosa walked past him without looking back. She called a taxi and went to the Obaseki mansion. When she arrived, the gateman opened the gate without question. He had seen this before, many times. The neighbors watched from their windows, shaking their heads. "I told you, 12 months. I called it." She didn't even make it to 12 months. What a shame. Obaseki women, they never change. Esosa walked into the mansion, dragging her suitcases behind her. Her mother was in the living room, reading a newspaper. She looked up when Esosa entered. "You're back," her mother said simply. "Yes." "He didn't beat you?" "No." "He didn't cheat?" "No." "Then why are you here?" I can't stand him anymore, Mama. I don't know why, but I hate him." Her mother nodded slowly. "I understand." And that was it. No questions, no judgment, no surprise. Because in the Obaseki mansion, this was normal. Esosa went to her old room and lay down on the bed. The dreams continued. The whispers continued. But now, she was home. And somehow, that made everything worse. Weeks passed. Esosa tried to settle back into life at the mansion, but something inside her was screaming, "This isn't right." She had worked so hard to avoid this. She had been so careful. She had dated Dayo for a year. She had asked all the right questions. She had prayed. She had prepared. And still, she ended up just like the others. One evening, as Esosa sat in her room staring at the ceiling, one of her old friends called. "Esosa, I heard you're back at the mansion. Are you okay?" "I'm fine." "Are you sure? You don't sound fine." Esosa sighed. "I don't know what's wrong with me. I loved my husband. And then one day, I just didn't. I can't explain it." Her friend was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "You know what? There's a church I've been attending. They're having a night vigil this Friday. You should come. The pastor is very powerful. Maybe he can help you." Esosa wanted to say no. She had never been particularly religious, but she was desperate. "Okay," she said, "I'll come." The night vigil was held at a small church on the outskirts of Benin City. The building was modest, but the atmosphere inside was electric. People were praying loudly. Some were crying. Some were dancing. The pastor stood at the front, speaking with authority and passion. After the service, Esosa's friend took her to the pastor's office for counseling. The pastor was an older man with kind eyes and a calm demeanor. He gestured for Esosa to sit. "What brings you here, my daughter?" Esosa told him everything. The pattern in her family, her attempts to break it, her marriage to Dio, the sudden hatred, the dreams, the whispers. The pastor listened without interrupting. When she finished, he leaned back in his chair and said, "This is a generational curse." Esosa's heart sank. "What do you mean?" "There is something in your family, something that was done many years ago that has bound all of you. You are fighting forces bigger than yourself, forces that were set in motion long before you were born. But how do I stop it?" The pastor looked at her seriously. "I need to see your mother, your grandmother, your great-grandmother, all of them. There is something we need to address, something that needs to be broken." Esosa went home and told her mother. Her mother laughed. "Pastors, they're all the same. They just want money. Mama, please just come with me. What do you have to lose? I'm not going to sit in some small church and let a pastor tell me nonsense." But Esosa was relentless. She begged, she cried, she threatened, and slowly her mother's resistance began to crack. "Fine," her mother said finally. "But if this pastor wastes my time, I'm leaving." Esosa also convinced her grandmother and her great-grandmother Mama Alice to come. It took a full month of pleading, but eventually they all agreed. The four women, Esosa, her mother, her grandmother, and Mama Alice, sat in the pastor's office. The pastor looked at each of them. Then his eyes settled on Mama Alice. "Madam," he said quietly, "there is something you did many years ago. You and your husband went somewhere. You made a sacrifice. You made a deal." Mama Alice's face went pale. How? How do you know that?" "The Spirit of God reveals all things. You went to a secret cult. You asked for wealth, and they gave it to you. But there was a price." Mama Alice's hands began to shake. "What is he talking about, Mama?" Esosa's grandmother asked. Mama Alice closed her eyes. Tears streamed down her wrinkled cheeks, and then she confessed. "It was many years ago," Mama Alice began, her voice trembling. "Your grandfather and I were very poor. We had nothing. We couldn't feed our children. We couldn't pay our debts. Life was unbearable." She paused, wiping her tears. "One day, a friend of mine told me about a place, a secret place. She said they could help us. She said they could give us wealth and power." "A secret cult," the pastor said. Mama Alice nodded. "Yes, I didn't know what else to do. So your grandfather and I went, and they gave us everything we asked for. Wealth, power, success. They told us our family would be great, that we would own businesses, that our daughters would be doctors and lawyers and politicians. But there was a price," the pastor said. "Yes," Mama Alice's voice broke. "There was a price." She looked at her daughters and granddaughters, her eyes filled with anguish. "They told us that no male child would ever be born in our family, that the sons we already had would not live past 60, that the women in our family would be powerful, but they would never be able to stay in their husband's house, that they would hate men with passion, that the curse would last for 14 generations. The room was silent. Esosa felt like the ground had been pulled out from under her. "You," her mother's voice was barely a whisper, "you did this to us?" Mama Alice collapsed into sobs. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I thought I was helping. I thought I was saving us." You destroyed us, Esosa's mother shouted. Do you know what you've done? Do you know how many marriages you've ruined? How many children grew up without fathers? I tried to fix it, Mama Alice cried. I went back. I gave up my womb. I sacrificed everything I had, but it didn't work. The pastor leaned forward. That's because you cannot undo a covenant with the devil using the devil's methods. Only God can break what the enemy has bound. The pastor gave them clear instructions. You must gather all the women in your family, every single one. You will fast and pray for 21 days. Mama Alice, you will lay hands on each of them and declare that the curse is broken. He gave them specific psalms to pray. He gave them prayer points. He told them to burn every fetish object in the house. This will not be easy, the pastor warned. The enemy will fight back. But if you are committed, God will set you free. The next day, Esosa gathered all the women in the Obaseki clan. When they heard what Mama Alice had done, there was chaos. You cursed us. You went to a cult. This is why we can't stay married. But Esosa stepped forward. This is not the time to fight. This is the time to pray. We can break this, but we have to do it together. For 21 days, the women of the Obaseki clan fasted and prayed. Even the ones who had never prayed before joined in. Even the ones who didn't believe in God participated because they were desperate. Mama Alice laid hands on each woman one by one and declared, I remove the curse from your head. The curse no longer has dominion over you. You are free. The pastor came to the mansion and prayed over the entire property. He anointed the gates. He anointed the walls. He anointed the rooms. And then he told Mama Alice to bring out the fetish objects. She went to her room and returned with a wooden box filled with calabashes, beads, and strange cloths. The pastor set them on fire. As the flames consumed the objects, Esosa felt something lift off her chest. It was like a heavy weight she didn't know she was carrying had suddenly been removed. That night, Esosa had the dream again, but this time it was different. She was in the forest wearing the red and white wrapper. The heavy bowl was on her head. The chains were around her ankles. But then a man appeared. He was dressed in white and his face was too bright to see clearly. He walked up to Mama Alice and lifted the bowl off her head. Then he moved to the grandmother and lifted her bowl. Then the mother, then the aunties, then the cousins. And finally, he came to Esosa. He lifted the bowl off her head and said, Enough. You don't have to carry this anymore. The chains around her ankles shattered. Esosa woke up crying, but this time they were tears of relief. Before the 21 days were over, something miraculous began to happen. The women who had hated their ex-husbands suddenly felt the hatred lift. Esosa's cousins started calling their husbands. I miss you, one of them said, crying into the phone. I don't know what happened to me, but I miss you. I miss you too, her husband replied, his voice thick with emotion. Can you come home? Yes, I'm coming home. One by one, the women packed their bags and returned to their husbands. Those whose husbands had moved on simply made peace with them. The bitterness was gone. Esosa picked up her phone and called Dayo. He answered on the first ring. Esosa, it's me. There was a long pause. Then Dayo said, Are you okay? Is the baby okay? We're fine. Dayo, I need to tell you something. What is it? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened to me, but I know now. And I'm sorry. I love you. I never stopped loving you. I couldn't see it. Dayo was silent. Then he said, Can I come get you? Yes, Esosa whispered. Please come get me. 2 months later, Esosa gave birth to a healthy baby, a baby boy, the first male child born in the Obaseki family in over 4 generations. When Mama Ali saw him, she wept. "It's over," she whispered. "The curse is truly broken." The Obaseki mansion was no longer a place of whispers and beds. It was a place of celebration. The women who had once been known as the man-haters were now happily married. Some renewed their vows. Some had more children. Some simply enjoyed the peace that had eluded them for so long. Esosa and Dayo moved back into their home. Their son, whom they named Emmanuel, God is with us, grew strong and healthy. And one quiet Friday morning, Mama Alice passed away in her sleep. She was almost 100 years old. Before she died, she gathered all her descendants and said, "Forgive me. I was greedy. I wanted wealth, and because of that, I put you all in bondage. But now you are free. Live well, love well." They all held her hand and said, "We forgive you, Mama." And she smiled, a true peaceful smile, and closed her eyes. The neighbors stopped betting. The Obaseki name was redeemed. The women were no longer known as the powerful women who couldn't stay married. They were known as the powerful women who loved fiercely and lived freely. And in the mansion at house number 1, Ozebu Close, the dark cloud that had lingered for generations was finally completely gone. Thank you for watching this story, besties. What do you think about this story? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And until I bring another intriguing story your way again, bye for now.